So, do you know what cultural appropriation is?
I've heard of the term, but I haven't exactly been, it hasn't really been explained to me.
Cultural appropriation is when you take someone's culture without like any appreciation for it. You just sort of take it and like take advantage of it in a sense. So like an example of cultural appropriation is like during Halloween when people wear like costumes that like represent another culture when they don't really have any knowledge of that culture.
I have a relative idea.
Basically, a group of people that use another culture in a minstrel show fashion or in a mocking fashion.
It's when you take an oppressed races
or marginalized culture.
Yeah, culture, and just kind of take it as your own, but without knowing like the true meaning behind it. Like when white people go to Coachella and take the bindies.
I've heard of it. Like I only kind of like went over it like in a class in my freshman year, and that was it, I think.
Using it or demonstrating it in like a way that fits, or like a way that's polite in a way, or to like honor it, not discriminate it.
You like simplify a culture into like one, like a costume or
like fashion.
Yeah, yeah.
Not knowing its reference.
Honestly, I think that cultural appropriation is something that's pretty misunderstood by the common public. You know, certain like jokes or slang or activities. You know, one thing I think really, especially like whenever it comes to Halloween costumes,
it's rude almost when I see people wearing like Day of the Dead skulls on their face. You know, because they don't know what that means, and they're just like, well, it's a skull, but it's not. It's something that's huge and big.
Yeah, I get like really heated when people like try to like appropriate my own culture, like being Mexican. Like I heard about some tacos and tequilas party that happened before, and I just like when I was learning about that, I was just like, oh my God.
Are you aware about the whole? Do you know like how we used to have the mascot, the Native American mascot?
Yeah, that I do know, yeah.
Cultural appropriation is one of the reasons why the few Native Americans who actually do attend the university, it's a very small number, are extremely affected by just seeing their culture being utilized for entertainment, for funding, and they're not receiving any sort of monetary or really any sort of like emotional support.
I always think it's good to give props to whatever ideas you take to whatever culture.
I guess, yeah, it's against what most Native Americans would like, and so we're kind of just using it for our own gain, which I guess is culture appropriation, like the definition, using it for our own gain without necessarily doing it for what they want.
So I exactly don't know what happened with the mascot, but I heard that there was some actions that the mascot did that were kind of like offensive to the Native people. So if that was the case, I guess he had it coming. Like we just decided not to because it was, you know, offensive to the Native American.
People that run around with the Chief Illiniwek are as Native American as those who came on the Mayflower, i.e. none.
Just because like you have some type of ancestry doesn't mean that you feel like the effects of being a minority all the time.
In my opinion, I think it's hard because I see both sides. I see like the tradition and like the pride of being the chief, and a lot of my family members like know of it as that, but I also see it like in a way as maybe some people think that it could be offensive and it could be like making fun of them.
I could see how it could be offensive to somebody, but I mean, granted that from the perspective of the creators of the Chief, it wasn't really intended to be something offensive. It was just kind of something that like we look at as more of like a pride thing.
Honestly, I don't believe that the Chief should be there, but I do understand the significance it had to certain individuals.
I don't think we should continue a tradition that offends other people when it can be easily substituted for something that's a little less controversial.
I heard that we were going to be the Black Eyes, which sounds pretty okay with me.
Like Stanford has a Christmas tree. Come on, guys, like really, like St. Louis, I don't know what a billiken is. It looks like an alien.
I don't know, I've heard the Chief is kind of like a reference to like people who fought in the wars, like World War II, so something related to soldiers. I've heard squirrels. I'm not a huge fan of that. Sure, they're orange, but who wants to be a squirrel?
I'm okay with the squirrel. I think the squirrel is cute.
I see a lot of squirrels. We could be the Illinois squirrels, right?
For me, I say no to the squirrels, but just try to find something else along those lines.
As long as the mascot isn't African Americans,
yeah,
you go ahead and do that. As long as your mascot isn't me.
Definitely.